Hi everybody, welcome back to Cottoverdi. My name's Annette. We live here in South Buckinghamshire in the UK, which is equivalent to a zone 9A/8B. We get down to a maximum of about -5. Very occasionally in the winter, we may get a very cold spell and get down to -7. At the moment, it's about -1, and I'm talking in degrees centigrade. It's freezing. I'm going to show you what I'm doing with my ranunculus culms that are still in the ground. I am also going to clear out the Bacopa around our olive trees because the frost has hit it and it is no longer viable. And I'm also going to be planting up the Amaryllis that I planted in the garden during the summer and then lifted and put into dormancy, and they are ready to be planted up, and I've got some gorgeous new pots that I'm going to put those in. So there's quite a lot that I want to show you today. Let's get cracking. What I thought I'd start off with is I'm going to soak or rehydrate the Amaryllis that I put into dormancy on a previous video. So it must have been about 10 or 12 weeks ago now. I'll put the date up on the screen that I took the Amaryllis out of the pots they'd been in all summer and removed all the compost and then set them in a cool, dark place, one of my sheds, so that they would go into dormancy, and then we could bring them out again and start them afresh and have new flowers in the spring. So I'll show you what I'm doing today. They've been in dormancy, and this is the next step in the process. When I put these into dormancy a few weeks ago, they were lush and green and they'd been really happy all summer, and I had some buds, but they'd been munched or eaten by either birds, I guess, or slugs and snails. So I didn't actually get any flowers, although flowers would have formed if I'd managed to protect them. And I'll show you what they look like now. So I've got some that are completely shriveled and dried like this. So all the leaves died a few weeks ago. The roots they're not really dry, they're not brittle or anything, and the bulbs are firm. So I'm pressing the bulbs and they're completely firm. Can you see that? So that is what we're looking for, and we know that they've gone into dormancy. Some of them, so one particular variety, Amadeus Candy, has still got a little bit of yellow on the leaves, but that's fine. As far as I'm concerned, they're also in dormancy, and all the goodness has been reabsorbed by the bulb. The bulbs are still firm. They're lovely. So everything is ready to be potted up again. I'm going to show you how I prep them now to be potted up, because there's another little step. So the first thing we want to do is we want to cut off these dead leaves. So we don't want them anymore. They can just go on the compost. So I'm literally just going to gather them up and just tidy the top up like that. So I'm just going to do that to all of the bulbs here. And I'm just cutting them off at sort of exactly the same height that they were cut off previously. So you can sort of see where they were cut off last time. Actually, so I have got a new leaf here. This is a new one forming. So I don't want to cut that. I need to protect that. So I'm just going to cut around it like this. So these have got, this one is Susan, and these have got quite a lot of the sort of stringy root growth at the bottom. So I'm just going to yank that off, otherwise it'll take up too much room in the containers that I'm putting them into. And the stringy growth comes off quite easily and just leaves the fleshy roots afterwards. I'm also sort of, it's a bit like an onion, so the really crinkly stuff on the outside of the bulb, if that's loose, I've just taken it off. So this one has got a little baby, and I am going to separate it, but I'm not sure whether I'm going to keep it. I mean, I might plant this up, but I think it probably won't flower for a really long time, maybe a few years. And again, I'm just going to peel off the outside of these bulbs because it's just very loose and I'm worried it might rot or something. So I've just sort of tidied up the outside. I haven't really tidied it up completely. I'm just taking off anything that's loose. Then if you've seen my other Amaryllis videos, you will know that I pre-soak my bulbs, just the roots. So don't put the rest of it in water, but I pre-soak the roots for 24 hours because that does help them to bloom sooner. You could put them in a glass or something, just put the roots in and sit them in a glass, but I've got these bowls that they fit in quite nicely. And I will put the little baby in too. Try and make sure it doesn't get too wet. So these can't stay outside because it's freezing at the moment. So we're getting down to sort of 0 down to -2 degrees. It's really cold. The weather's changed. It's gorgeous. Sun's out. Lovely crisp autumn days. But these can't stay outside. So I'll show you how much water I'm going to put inside, and then we'll leave them soaking for about 24 hours. Maybe slightly less if I get to them early tomorrow, but I'll pop those up into some lovely new containers that I've got, and I'll do that tomorrow, and I'm going to show you that. So it's literally just the roots that are sitting in water. We don't want the bulb to sit in water because even just 24 hours might do it some harm. So try to make sure that the bulbs are sitting on top of the water or on top of the roots. The other thing I need to do is to soak some moss. So I like to decorate my containers, especially at this time of year and especially with the indoor containers, but I do decorate everything with moss. And this is a really nice moss. I think I've linked it before in the past, and it just needs rehydrating, but I think it's a really nice colour, and it's not sheet moss, so it's sort of in little strands, which makes it much easier to deal with than sheet moss. You don't have to rip it up or anything, but I just think it's a really nice colour. So I'll show you how I'm going to rehydrate this as well. But we've turned all our taps off because it's so cold out and we didn't want the pipes to burst. So again, anything to do with water I've got to go inside for now because the weather's so cold. So with the moss, I'm just soaking it in a little bit of water here. I've split these pads apart. You can just sort of tear them apart a little bit if you want to, and just get it to rehydrate faster. You don't have to, you could just leave it as it is. And then you can add more water or less water, and then we'll just squeeze it out. If there's too much water, we'll squeeze really hard. And then this is what I use to decorate the top of my containers. Okay, so this has been soaking for quite a long time, and now it just falls apart. But look at the colour of this moss. It hasn't been dyed or anything, so I just think it's so natural looking and fluffy and gorgeous. There isn't any water at the bottom. Let me see if I squeeze it. Yeah, if I squeeze it, a bit will come out. So I'm just going to squeeze them so that they're not all sitting in loads of water. So this area here at the western end of the bottom border, it's down by our log store. Down here, this is where I left some ranunculus in the ground. This is Ranunculus musa, which has got gorgeous sort of cerise, apricot, coppery tones. It's absolutely beautiful, but it's a butterfly ranunculus, so they're really expensive corms, and I don't want them to rot. Now, I left them in hoping that they would be okay, but actually our ground is sodden already, and I'm terrified I'm going to lose them. Not only that, but they started growing as if I'd started them, I suppose, in the greenhouse this autumn, and the leaves have all been hit by the frost and they're turning to mush, and I'm really worried the corms are going to rot. So I'm going to dig them up, I'm going to dry them off and put them into store, and then I'll bring them out at the same time as my other ranunculus when I plant them up in sort of February, March time next year, and I'll show you that whole process. But today I've got to save these. So this is what they're looking like now. This is one here. I've got another one here. I kind of planted them in a semicircle around here, so I'm going to sort of hunt them out, look for them and dig them up. So all I'm going to do, I mean the tags are broken, I'm just going to lift them like this and try to bang off some of the soil. hoping I've saved them in time. What I'm going to do is I'm going to rinse off the soil and I'm going to dry them out and then put them into storage in the garage through the winter. So I'm also going to cut off the dead foliage. We don't want that. It's windy and absolutely freezing, but the sun is out, and I've just noticed, I don't know why I've only just noticed this is a Pinus walliciana behind me here, and when we bought it, it was, I think, shorter than me, but it's absolutely enormous now. It's grown so much, and it's got the most gorgeous, soft, fluffy, well, they're not really fluffy, but they move in the wind. Look at these, they're so gorgeous. They are quite soft. But they're not fluffy. They're not fluffy, but they're soft and they just move so beautifully. And I really like the way there's a lot of space in between the branches in this particular conifer. So it's just got more air around it. A little bit sort of ikebana, the Japanese flower arranging style where you can see through the gaps. And so it just creates a really pretty form. So these are the olive trees. I've got one here and another one here, and we can see all this brownness at the bottom. That's the Bacopa. So I've also got thyme and rosemary in there, and they will be fine through the winter, but I need to take the Bacopa out. It looks really ugly and disgusting, and it won't make it through the winter. I mean, it's dead now, and I just need to plant new Bacopa next year or something else. But I did love this Bacopa so much that I think I'll probably just go with Bacopa again. So the other thing I've noticed is that this tree here that gets the most sun, the rosemary at the base of this tree is way taller and healthier probably than the rosemary here. So the rosemary on this one that is shaded for some of the day by these bushes here and by the rose on this rose arch, this rosemary here is much shorter and a little bit more straggly. So I'm going to have to think, I think, about carving a space here for these, because I really do want them to look just as healthy as these. Now I will probably prune the rosemary at some point in the spring because I don't want them to turn into huge great big bushes. I want them to be fairly low lying, but I would like the other pot to look as healthy as this. Like I'd like the rosemary to look just as bushy. So now I'm going to pot up last year's Amaryllis bulbs into the new containers. Let me show you what I've got. So I've got a round basket. This is a very firm sort of, I don't know, what is that, rattan probably, and it's got a plastic liner, which is fantastic. I have also got a long trough with a plastic liner, so I'm really pleased about that. I think I will use a plastic liner just to make sure that my surfaces don't get ruined, but I think they're going to look stunning in there. And then I've got a really pretty pot, this one here, another round pot, and it doesn't have holes in the bottom. So if a pot doesn't have holes in the bottom, we really do need to be careful how much we water them, because we definitely don't want them to get waterlogged, but I think they're going to be fine in here. So if you haven't caught any of my other videos about how to pot up Amaryllis, I'll show you again and just go through my method. It's really easy. It's one of the easiest things to do. So this first one I'm planting is called Lemon Star. So Amaryllis like to be really snug in their pots. You don't want more than sort of an inch between the edge of the Amaryllis bulb and your container if it's right up against it, so that's absolutely fine. I am also planting the little baby that I grew, not because I think it's going to flower, but because I want it to have nutrition and sort of wake up and go through the same process. And I am packing the soil down, the compost down. This is multi-purpose peat-free compost with a sprinkling of grit in it. And then the other thing to know is that we only want the bottom third or maximum 2/3 of the bulb to be planted in the compost. The Amaryllis don't like to be buried in the compost. We don't want the bulbs to rot, and so we're only planting sort of up to that level, and that's as much soil as we need to put in. And then the other thing that I do with all my Amaryllis bulbs is I dress them with a sprinkling of moss, because I think it looks woodsy and cute, and it kind of covers up the bare soil. And I think that looks absolutely adorable. This one here I'm planting is called Lemon Star. It's got this very sort of faint greenish yellowy tinge to it. It's really not that apparent, it's more sort of white than anything else. And now I'm going to plant Amadeus Candy. Amadeus Candy is a gorgeous double white Amaryllis, and it just looks so fluffy and cute. This is my favourite. And we can see that they've kind of woken up whilst they've been sitting in the water, and I've got leaves growing already. This one is called Susan. Well, I hope you've been nice and cosy and warm and snug inside whilst I've been out here in the freezing cold. I've actually really enjoyed it. I do love autumn. It's my favourite time of the year, and I'm so happy I've got all my Amaryllis planted now and that I've saved those ranunculus, because they really were, I mean, they're precious to me. I think they're absolutely beautiful and I want them again next year. I don't want to have to keep spending money, but that's a reminder to me to definitely be digging them up after they finish flowering each year. I don't want to do it again in the freezing cold. Anyway, I hope you've had fun with me as I've tackled a few projects here in the garden. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all next time.